Oh, snap. Welcome back to the channel, y'all. My name's Patrick. If you like true crime, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, do all of the things, YouTube and Rumble. Shout out to TikTok. We had the pre-show over there. Great to see everybody. Wonderful night. Hope everybody is well. Hope you're all having a great weekend or weekday if you end up watching this on the replay. I don't know. But whatever it is, hope you're having a great one. Michael Francis, JP Miller updates. I saw this one. Does Regina Ward have more? We got Shay Zonay. Shout out to Shane. Soul Search in the house. She probably isn't in the house. One of these, she's in the house. Let's go. She said Regina Ward, attorney for Micah's family, is playing games. Ooh, let's see what she's got to say about that. And then we got Coffee with Crime podcast. Shout out. Was John Paul lying the entire interview? Huh. Well, I don't know. But let's watch these videos. Let's discuss. Let's talk about this stuff. Let's find out. Please make sure YouTube, find everybody that we watch. Find all the creators down in the description. Give them a subscribe. Go support their channels. Go check them out. Follow them on all the socials. Everybody that we watch, all three videos. It's all pinned down in the description. So huge shout out to everybody. Thank you for doing that. I love you guys. YouTube, hit the thumbs up button. Let's go. 100 likes. TikTok, hit the follow button. Tap the screen like crazy and hit me with those little fest things, whatever that is. The fiest. All right. Let's go. I'm going to shrink myself down. Shane, what you got for us today? What you got for us today? Let's go.
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Shane. For those who are new, welcome back. If you're returning, my last video with the Mica Francis case, we were looking at Regina Ward and her interview and talking about what's going to happen next after they reached a global settlement. Part 1 will be linked down below if you missed it and want to check it out. Otherwise, we're going to continue right where we left off.
I want to shift gears to the criminal side of this. There have been reports, several media outlets here on the coast, national outlets as well, have reported that there's a federal component to this investigation beyond the Robeson County investigation into Micah's death. We've also been told that there are investigations related to other potential victims of John Paul Miller. Let me ask you this. What can you tell us from your perspective about any potential criminal investigations into John Paul, and are any of your clients cooperating with those?
Right. So one of the things that I have said over and over is basically, for instance, I have an order stating that Micah's personal property, when the legal authorities are finished with their investigation, that it'll be returned to my office. I have sent a couple of letters to the Robeson County Sheriff's Department saying, hey, I have an order. Give us the stuff because you've completed your investigation from what we understand, right? You have your finding. So they denied the request, said they were not going to release the property at this time.
By the way, if you're catching up from part 1, we learned that Micah's Apple Watch is currently being investigated, and Regina requested it, and basically law enforcement is not releasing it until they're done with their investigation. So that's what she's talking about, in case you missed the context from part 1.
Basically, the FBI had come. They had called in the FBI, and at this point, they're not going to release the property. They wouldn't tell me specifically why. But it was like the order says I get it when all legal authorities are complete. And so they've not released it to me. So I think
What does it mean?
that is an indication that something is still going on as far as me having direct knowledge of it. No, and as far as them investigating or interviewing as well, certainly the family is cooperative in that manner. If and when asked, certainly we feel like we have a lot to offer up.
Obviously.
Yes.
Let me ask this question. There are 2 lines of inquiry that we've been reliably informed are underway. An investigation into finances, potential assets that John Paul Miller may have hidden, commingled, perhaps laundered, some have suggested, But then there's also allegations regarding to abuse, harassment, stalking, assault.
Yes.
Not to mention him allegedly using church funds in order to hire these private investigators to stalk his wife, but we're going to glaze over that one.
Mm-hmm.
As those allegations kind of hang out there, obviously we have seen documented in detail in court filings from Mica's family, from her friends, from the first wife of John Paul Miller, who alleged a host of abuse. Would it surprise you if there were those twin paths to this investigation?
Not be surprised at all, and actually hopeful. And as Mica said, God will come and he will take care of everything.
That's true. Let me ask this question. Arguably the most significant component of this story, and I think you would attest to this at your press conference in the immediate aftermath of one of the first hearings, where, yes, there were some items to discuss about what transpired in the court that day, but the focus of what you talked about, and what I gather from watching the family on social media, one of their main focuses is how to protect other women, or other spouses, other people in relationships from being victimized in the same way that Mica was. And
Absolutely.
So the hashtag is justice for Mica, but the push on the coercive control legislation seems to be much bigger. Let me ask you this. There have been coercive control reform bills filed in South Carolina. They haven't gotten anywhere. Where do you see this debate going? And let's talk a little bit about that issue, what you see as sort of the key pillars of an effective piece of legislation here in South Carolina.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for asking that, because I think that it is critical. One of the wonderful things that has happened out of this horrible situation is that it has put a ginormous spotlight on this problem. This problem has existed forever. Women particularly, and I know that men are in the same situation, but let's be honest, it's primarily women. Okay. And it is critical now that this has been brought to light, that something be done about it. Because I'll tell you right now, if that bill or that had been made a law, and if that law had been put into place several years before this happened to Mica, there is no doubt in my mind that this possibility she would still be alive. And the reason for that is because every single place that she went to get help, I mean, every place that she went to get help, she didn't get the help. She didn't get the help that she needed to escape from that situation.
Yeah, I feel like this is a problem overall. I can say
that is absolutely horrible.
Briefly, from an experience of my own, I was having an issue with a gas station attendant. His remarks just kept getting creepier and creepier. He had always come in, like you could always smell alcohol on his breath, and he used to be an employee there. But I don't know, he was like supposed to move and didn't. I think he was just having some issues. Anyways, I went in one time, and I wasn't even by myself, but I think he was a customer, not even working this day. And he came up behind me and like bear hugged me. And due to an extensive history with SA, it put me into an immediate panic attack. Long story short, I was basically told the same thing, that there was nothing that they could do because he didn't technically do anything. I wanted to file the report.
He did do something. That's battery. That's unwanted touch. Man, you should. Where do you live? That would have been straight up. I felt like my life was in danger, Your Honor. Somebody comes up and bear hugs you from behind, and then you realize that it's some creepy guy that has been terrifying you for a while. Oh, well, no.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
And the person that you were with, was it like a boyfriend or something? Because what did that guy do? That dude should have went, the hell did you just do to my girl? You just want to bear hug her and she doesn't know you? I mean, if it's a friend or something like that, and it's like somebody that she's cool with, and he's like, oh, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Oh, You know, okay, maybe I'd be like, it's a little weird, but maybe give her a hug front way. It's not bear hug from behind, but if the second I see, she said she had a panic attack. The second I see that, oh, later. Good night, sir. You'll wake up in 6 months eating through a straw. I mean, you crazy as hell. Allegedly TikTok and YouTube. But I'm just saying, like, man, that's crazy. That is crazy as hell. Eddie, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Keep up the great work. Love the channel. Appreciate that. Thank you for super chat. That definitely helps support the show. So thank you. YouTube, little super chat action, always appreciated. And click that link that's pinned in the comments or pinned in the chat. The very top says join the channel. That link will take you straight to joining the channel. TikTok, hit that follow button too. Tap the screen like crazy and hit me with them little community crown things, y'all. All right, let's keep going. That's crazy she had to deal with that, though, man. I don't even know what would happen.
Report just so that there was something reported in case something unfortunately did happen. At least I had reported a prior incident that could be pulled up again. So I know this happens. I had made a whole video about it when it happened because I was so distressed because I was already going back and forth in my mind morally of what to do. So finally, when I got the courage to try to put a stop to this guy being a creep, I literally went to law enforcement and they told me to turn around and go away. There are still things pending, but I had to go and try to get a restraining order on somebody. And I say try because even though this person kept showing up to my house and allegedly his friends were also watching me and stuff, it wasn't enough to go get a restraining order on someone. So I 100% believe that everywhere that Mica went, she was turned away for help. And this really needs to change.
That is crazy as hell. First off, it's crazy as hell that y'all or anybody has to deal with that. That's insane to me that they can't get the help that they need. And second off, it's crazy as hell that these dudes are being that crazy. What the hell is wrong with people? Brookdown, thank you for gifting a membership. Let's go. But what the hell is wrong with these people? Bro, she broke up with you. Move the hell on. She divorced you. Move the hell on. My word.
And it's because the laws are not set up. They can actually be abused, and that was happening. So had that been in place, it would have created stumbling blocks to start with. Okay, the police would have had something to look to. Whenever police hear I'm being abused, they say, where are the marks? Okay, they're looking for physical evidence. This is abuse that does not leave marks on your body, but it leaves horrible marks on the psyche, the mind, and self-confidence of a person. And it is difficult for an officer to show up and determine, is this a coercive control situation? And so I believe that people are a little bit hesitant about it because when you take the items one by one, in and of themselves do not seem to be something that would be considered illegal in and of itself. And the point is that all of the different types of tactics and examples of coercive control that is outlined in the bill, you have to put them together, and in the totality of the circumstances, pulling all of that together, then appears the crime. So the problem with that is that there may be an opportunity to abuse even that situation, okay, or that it goes too far, that it crosses the line, that an alleged victim is utilizing that actually for a control tactic reversed. So the way
How do we prevent that from happening, though? Is there a way to draw the line?
Absolutely. I have a theory. My theory is this. First of all, whenever police officers show up to any place where there's an alleged crime, they investigate, they ask questions, they do that sort of a thing. Usually police officers are going to arrest someone whenever there's, probable cause for the arrest that they can see. Marks on the hand, whatever, the bruise that is probable cause that they can see, so they can make that arrest. Now, if there's a situation that's much bigger, in other words, like a felony, those require a warrant. Okay, so that means that if an officer observes these types of behaviors and says, hey, I'm not sure, but it appears that this may be a coercive control situation. I can't arrest this guy on site, but let me take this information to our local magistrate. And then the magistrate looks at it and determines, compares it to the law that will, hopefully be written one day, compares it to the law and determines whether there's probable cause. More likely than not, that's what that means. More likely than not that there is a crime occurring here. And then they can take that warrant and execute the warrant and pick up the person and arrest them for it. And then at that point, it's going to be up to the solicitor to garner the rest of the evidence, the journals, the patterns, the 19 phone calls to the police, and all the things that have been reported. So then that, to me, would afford some protection from utilizing the law itself as a tool against someone else. But it's critically important that it goes a step further, because once someone is arrested for that crime, we'll call it for that crime, I think that the next step that needs to happen is when they get before the bondsman, which they're going to get, and of course once they get out, they are mad, right? So I think that it should be mandatory that anyone who's arrested under coercive control must wear a GPS monitor. No questions about it. It has definitely got to be one part mandatory as part of a bond that's being issued.
Yeah, but remember we had that one case that we talked about where the dude was supposed to get fitted for one, didn't show up, and then got arrested again, and then was like, oh, my bad, I'm gonna go show up. And then he goes to the place, and as he's standing there, the guy's like, oh, are you supposed to have this? And he was like, oh, no, I don't think so. And they were like, oh, okay. And then they just let him go, and he drove from Tennessee to Mississippi and took that girl's life. Man, it's crazy as hell. Or he had one on and he had to get refitted, but then he was like, oh, I'm not supposed to have this on at all. Remember that? It's just crazy as hell. Oh my God, what's wrong with these people? The hell's wrong with these people? By the way, YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. Let's get over 100 likes. We're close. TikTok, hit the follow button. Tap the screen. Let's get 25,000 likes. And hit me with those little, I don't know what those are. Those things. That's what TikTok said they care about tonight. So gotta appease the overlords. Let's keep going.
So I think warrants are the way to do that. They can collect the evidence and have a magistrate determine if that's something that should be executed or not.
And in this,
I don't understand how JP got away with so much. I mean, the tracking, like, this is all just okay. There's too many holes in the law, I believe, that you can get away with so much until you basically commit an act. And I think we need more laws put in place for protection. Like she was alluding to, the GPS trackers on people who are found guilty of coercive control, and so on and so forth. But this is definitely something that I think needs to be worked on and talked about.
he's had some of those statutes been on the books, and that probable cause, more likely than not.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how that could have impacted what happened to Mica Miller.
Well, in terms of, for instance, whenever you call police, when you're at home in your jurisdiction, usually the police officers, when they're assigned, they're familiar with whatever territory. They also can look up quickly and say, oh, have we ever been to this home before? So they're like, oh, they're calling again. They called about this before. So the police officers can pick up a pattern with regard to actual calls. So had that happened, that would have alerted the police officer that there was a bit more going on here. I also think that there would have been an opportunity. Sometimes what police do, or a lot of times what they do, is they try to diffuse a situation when they get there to see, oh, let's see what's happening. Oh, you took her cell phone, you give it back to her, and and diffuse the situation. Sometimes what they'll do is encourage sir, you need to, can you go stay at your mom's or your best friend's tonight till everything calms down? Or maybe there's a situation where people are, under the influence of alcohol and they're acting out in things that you do whenever you're under alcohol may not do, sober. So, and then also interviewing her when she would say,
Soul Search in the house. You're up next, Soul Search. We got one of your videos to watch. Make sure you show her some love, you guys. Show her some love. Go subscribe.
Things like, he's put trackers on me. He's, following me everywhere. He's showing up in places I wouldn't expect him to show up. I'm in the middle of lunch and he turned off my cell phone, and he demoralizes me. He's called me names. He sent me threatening letters.
Aaliyah, thank you.
He's incessantly calling me. I've told him over and over and over and over again.
Hold on. Sorry, my back is killing me. I just have to adjust.
Stop contacting me. And even after a police officer told him to stop contacting her, he did again. So when she's sitting there verbalizing all of these different things in the story, then the radar goes off into the police officer, who would say, hey, I think this is something that we need to report and put together, do an affidavit and submit it to the judge to see if the judge thinks there's enough here to issue a warrant for his arrest for violating coercive control.
You mentioned earlier that Mica was failed by the system, that she did the things that we want people to do, that we tell people to do, even though it was a conflict for her to do those things in some cases, difficult for her to do, but she nonetheless did those things. If a law is passed that addresses some of these issues, these deficiencies, as you refer in the coercive control arena, if we don't have officers, prosecutors, judges who are going to consistently enforce those statutes, someone who has connections with law enforcement like John Paul Miller, we keep hearing that, you don't know how powerful this guy is, the church and these connections he has. How does that play into it?
Well, I think that, education is key here. I understand, people have sometimes legitimate concerns about the status or the position or the power of someone. If there are resources made available, which they are not in Horry County, it's so embarrassing that there has not been a battered women's.
I just realized I've been pronouncing it Horry County, and she said Horry County. I don't think the H is pronounced.
Shelter here in over a decade, which is just disgusting, in my opinion. There's not enough resources. There are actually a couple of websites that a person can go to get some information on what can I do, where do I go, how do I get help. And I actually sat down one evening and
I wonder when the last time those websites got updated. Because, man, anytime somebody's like, well, just go to the website. Oh, my God. Like, you're better off, I don't know, trying to find, like, a message in a bottle. Like, just, what? Oh. I mean, these websites look like they were made in Microsoft Paint. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh, dear Lord in heaven. This is crazy as hell. Global, shout out. Thanks. Shout out to the teachers. Thank you for all that. Very sweet of you.
Role played for a minute. I said, okay, I'm going to pretend that I'm in a coercive control relationship and that he's gone to sleep and or passed out drunk, whatever it is. I got a few minutes to get on the computer that he does not allow me to get on. And I got on there and I tried to do some research real fast. A bunch of junk popped up. And then finally I got to a place where I'm still breathing heavy, thinking he's going to wake up any minute from me clicking on the keys, right? A website pops up and says, I'm basically at the right place, and what can I do? And it was call a number, and also if it had what it called a exit button, because if he walks in and sees him on the computer, it's, what are you doing on the computer? What were you looking up? What were you doing? Okay, so you want to be to have something on the screen that says I was looking up a recipe, or something.
I remember, again, when I was going for my own restraining order in the court, I ended up speaking to people from, I'm not going to name, for safety reasons, I'm not going to name the program because I think it's different in different areas of the country. But it was basically like a safe haven place. I called and I explained the situation, and it really wasn't anything more than just like, oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't leave my home. There was no real place to go, But when I called, I do remember one of the first things they asked me when I answered was that, am I in a safe place, or is there like a chance that someone could see or hear what I was doing that I didn't want to? She's talking about here, victims going onto websites and looking for safe havens. If the perpetrator did happen to come up behind your shoulder or see what you were doing, that it would appear as like a recipe page or like something other than, what they were actually looking for it. But it's for safety. Trust me, it's.
And so that website.
That is, I cannot believe that there's crazy people doing that kind of stuff, that you have to pretend like you have a recipe page to pull up because that person is gonna like get, what the hell? Oh my god, who are these people? Who are these people?
I had an
So sad.
exit button, and when you hit the exit button, it's supposed to take you to a weather station. When I hit the exit button, it went to the Google search bar. So the question then would have been, what were you about to look up? Okay.
Yeah, that's not, they gotta fix that.
It's not working properly. And I really, honestly, I cannot figure out for the life of me why people in general, and especially people who are in power that can make a difference, do not really have any sympathy or have any concern about the gravity of abuse in a home. It's like, it's not happening to me. It doesn't exist. Another thing is like, and I know this is just slightly off topic, but I'm
Because people are crazy as hell and selfish.
just incensed in how it's not being properly addressed, any form of abuse. There's this, I don't know, they're supposed to have this operation to help with, people who are in human trafficking, sex trafficking and things like that in the state.
Entertainment and educational purposes only, TikTok overlords. Entertainment and educational purposes only.
The governor who else was just applauding themselves and what they're doing. Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. I walked through an airport and there was a tiny little sign that said, if you're a victim, call this number, which was a number that no one would ever be able to memorize. Can we get a hashtag 12, a hashtag something that's
Quick text code or something
that's easy, something, 1-800 help me or say.
Oh yeah, we have 911. You have what is the UK's 999? Something simple, easy to remember. Not that you have to stare at a sign and try to remember it. If you're a victim, oh, let me just write it down real quick. Yeah, I see the point that she's trying to make.
Or something. It was the number.
Suicide prevention line.
Yes, it was ridiculous to me. I was like, this is laughable and it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing. That same information, which should have been on the back of every single door of every stall in there, because and there should be hot phones on the wall that whenever you walk by, you can grab it real fast and say, help me. What's going to happen? Boom, cameras are on it. Notice has gone out. Can we get some real help out here? And that's the thing, that people, our government, or the folks who are supposed to be helping, who walk around and pretend that they are and tout that they are. Okay, where's our abuse shelter for women? It's not here.
I really love the idea that she had of like literally on the back of every bathroom stall or just plastered everywhere. It doesn't even have to be hideous, but you can place it in strategic places where it's accessible everywhere. I love the idea of that, for having like a hotline, because you think not just coercive control when it comes to relationships, all the trafficking we're hearing about. I think it would be a major step forward, even doing something as simple as that.
Actual real solid resources. There is a resource booklet that I downloaded, and it gave phone numbers to call. Oh, if you're in an abusive situation, call this number. I called it. It was out of service. Please help me, somebody.
There are powerful elected
That is crazy as hell.
officials here. I mean, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, the South Carolina Senate, Luke Rankin, represents this area. Where is he?
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to know where he is, but I'll tell you this. He cried like a baby on Facebook because I called him out for not doing his job.
Senator Rankin.
Excuse me?
Senator Rankin did.
Senator Luke Rankin cried like a baby on Facebook because I called him out. He was, and still is, head of the Judiciary Committee. Micah's Law is what I'm going to call it, the Coercive Control Bill, was introduced multiple times, twice in the House and once in the Senate. You get it in the Senate, you got the most powerful senator that's there, head of the judiciary. You think he's got some power? Yes, he's got power. So he failed to use the power to take care of the citizens of the state of South Carolina. He walks around saying that he made a difference or makes a difference, that he's done so much for this county or this state, etc. Please, please, please tell me why. Please tell me why, when there was a request put forward for money to build a battered women's shelter, which we haven't had for 12 years. We refer everybody down to Georgetown. Good luck getting there. Where is the money for that? So there are two very fine gentlemen who have been working on the project, Fred Nesta and Mike King. They themselves, just citizens. They're not involved in government. Saw this need, and they have been working diligently to try to raise the money for years, raise enough money to build this shelter. They were successful in finding a wonderful donor, a benefactor who gave land for it. They put together the plans, the drawings, and so forth. Turns out they needed about $3 million. $3 million. So they go before, have someone put forth a request in the budget to have some money, given to them to help do this very, very important thing that helps a lot of people in our community. They were shot down on the $3 million. But they were kind enough to give them $1 million. That's a lot of money. That's great, but we need $3 million. So fast forward a little bit. And there was a request put in by another local representative for $3 million. The $3 million that was needed for the $6 or $7 million building that's being built for the dog pound, homeless animals. Homeless animals got $3 million while he approved $1 million for abused women.
You what? Man, that is crazy as hell. Whoa. They denied $3 million for the shelter, but then they approved it for a dog pound. Sweet Jesus, that is insane.
Children.
I love Old Yeller just as much as the next person. But are you kidding me? I try to keep my opinions at a minimum because I really just try to react. But some things I can't. Why is it that a group of older men called the Senate who are passing these laws get to then determine how much danger and how much protection and how much safety needs to be offered to women?
Already problem.
I think you're out of touch. He's out of touch with what's important to the citizens. You know, I like these things about, oh, we're going to, you know, make the roads better and whatever.
That's
How
great.
about we start with the quality of life inside the home of people? How about we go to that place? How about we put some money into education so that people understand how insidious and how abusive this form of abuse truly is? People cannot wrap their mind around it. When you're living in it, you feel like that it's ghost stuff. It's invisible things that chip away at the person until they become so feeling of, you know, no self-worth, total depression, total despair, total of, I have to give up and stay here. That happens a lot. Mica took her a little while. She got empowered. She finally got empowered, and she felt empowered when she walked into this office and sat down with me. She was ready to move forward, and she was upset about what had happened to her.
Oh my goodness.
So again, she's going to retain a lawyer, be empowered, walk in, be ready to move on from JP when it seems like for a long time this is something that she wanted to do but was too afraid, and now has the confidence to do so, just got recently baptized, and now she's going to kill herself?
And her eyes were opened, and she said, you know, I didn't know. Didn't know. Now she knows. Now she knows.
When you mentioned earlier about the sacrifice.
Yes.
Do you believe that Mica's sacrifice is what it will take to get these issues the attention, the legislation?
I sure hope so.
What they deserve?
I hope it doesn't take another woman with a similar case coming out. How many times is it going to have to happen? I sure hope so.
You know what? I don't know that it will, but I certainly hope that it will. You know, I think that Senator Luke Rankin, instead of, you know, making his little whiny post on Facebook, should have picked up the phone and gave me a call and said,
I really want to look up this post after if I can find it.
Attorney Ward, Regina, heard what you said. I think you're right. I think this is something that needs to be addressed. I want to be held accountable and say, you know, whatever it is, maybe it was on there and something happened. I don't know. Maybe there was another priority that took, I don't know. How about give me a call? Stand up and be what you said that you were elected to do. Be strong in this. Stand forward. Go forward. People follow him. Make a difference. While you're elected, it's not about you. It's about us. It's about the people. It's about what we need. And I think that he is out of touch with what general society needs. But come on.
Politicians out of touch?
You what?
No. I've never heard of such a thing. Wow.
How dare you?
I'm being facetious. My God.
Be a man and pick up the phone and give me a call. Help me out here. You have the power to do it. And if you don't help me out right here, that tells me everything I need to know about you. And I hope that it tells the rest of the world about him.
Hopefully we'll get some outcomes out of this process. One last question. I've heard that John Paul Miller is not too fond of the Mica's Law movement.
Oh, get over yourself.
He is
Sorry.
eagerly attempting to leverage the removal of Mica's name from that. Is that something that's on the table, or is this going to be
He doesn't want her name on it? Whoa.
Mica's Law or nothing?
I don't really think that he has any control over that. It's really the legislative body that would determine if it's going to be also known as. It's going to have the coercive control. Of course, what we will be doing is asking the judiciary or the General Assembly to consider adding that to the bill. We want it to be called Mica's Law, not because of just Mica, But because of Mica's situation and so much national, worldwide attention has been brought to this, when you say the word or the name Mica, what happens right here is the abusive things that she went through. So people will immediately recognize what that is and connect it. So it would not only be, a wonderful, wonderful, a tribute to what her life meant here, what it ended up meaning in the end. And also it's, it's already well known. It's a household name. So let's call it what it is.
Yeah, it's a little too late. Sometimes the people choose the name before. Well, I'm going to call it Mica's Law no matter what name they choose. But again, this guy continues to make himself look guiltier and guiltier and guiltier every video that I watch. Why would you, unless you were guilty and didn't want to be affiliated with the name, because every time they think of that name, they think of you being a bad guy, JP.
Damn, she hit us with the zoom. Did y'all see that zoom action right there? Shane, you hit us with the zoom action.
Wouldn't you want your wife's name affiliated with that law? One good reason, JP. I would love to hear it. Anyways, that is the whole interview with Regina Ward.
Oh, snap.
I will keep you guys updated as new information comes out with this case and further cases in the future. If you enjoyed, please.
Oh, my goodness. Y'all, by the way, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. We got almost 300 people on YouTube and 116 likes. Y'all, everybody watching, hit the thumbs up button. It helps spread the word about the live stream. TikTok, hit the follow button too. My name's Patrick. If you like true crime, I'm live every night. TikTok, YouTube, and Rumble. Shout out to Rumble as well. Y'all, we're gonna keep on moving along. We got 2 more videos to watch, 2 more things to get through. Checking it out. Y'all ready?
Go ahead and show me by leaving a like. Also, you can subscribe if you don't want to miss any new videos, and I'll see you in my next one.
Greetings, loves, and welcome to Soul Search Podcast, where we will be discussing things uncomfortable to some and interesting to most. So go.
There you go. Soul Search. Shout out. Y'all make sure you follow her as well. Subscribe to the channel. Soul Search. She's pinned down in the description.
Go ahead and subscribe. Add me to your favorites and share with a friend. Catch you in the episodes.
I like the little graphics on the side there, Soul Search.
That is in the possession of the legal authorities. And so we have a court order requiring those things to be released to my office. And they won't release it until they have finished their quote investigation, all legal authorities. And so I'm hoping that when I get my hands on those things, that may hold the answer. But I also, from a theoretic sort of a, stance, is that Mr. Miller was very consistent in his contact with her. He's even made, comments in other news agencies and so forth that he sent her 6 or 7 emails. I haven't got my hands on those yet. He made comments that he sent emails to her on the same day that she died, and then realized that there were 2 that she probably didn't get. There are a couple of things that don't add up. There are 2 specific things that he said that were so contradictory, and there's outside evidence to prove it and to...
Now, mind you, she said yet, but also mind you that this interview was done before they went in and came to these global agreements?
Sustain what I'm thinking about particularly, but I would say that I would not be surprised if he made some form of contact with her, because you have to remember that I served. Yes, you have to remember that I served him the separation papers on that day. So
on that day, y'all.
Remember that I served. Yes, say that I would not be surprised if he made some form of contact with her, because you have to remember that I served. Yes, you have to remember that I served him the separation papers on that day. So he had made a comment to me specifically that, gosh, something must be really wrong because Regina Ward has been hired on the case. And we know nobody gets Regina Ward unless it's a big case. And
right,
I was like, okay, well.
Okay. So what this says is that she served JP papers on the day Mica passed. The interviewer just asked on the day she passed, and she said yes. Then she said he made a comment to her. So I know somebody asked about, did she serve him online? I'm not sure if they could do that, but this sounds like it was in person.
We're not making a big deal out of it. We're just pursuing a separation. So I would not be surprised if he did not start at that moment, the second that he got served to start berating her with either phone calls or leaving her messages or texting her. Basically, he weaponized the Bible against her, and I would not be surprised if that happened.
Oh my God.
Surely you don't want anyone to find out the things that you have done. Surely.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Coffee with Crime podcast.
Oh, snap. Y'all, Coffee with Crime podcast as well. Make sure you follow her. Link is down in the description. Let's keep going.
I'm Brittany, and I'm happy to have you here. So I cannot believe it, but I already have another video dedicated to the Mica Francis case. And this has been made possible because John Paul cannot stop talking and providing us with so much content to examine. So, as you probably have seen, JP has done another interview, this time with NewsNation, and wow, it is a roller coaster to not only listen to, but also to watch his behaviors. So, before I got my master's in nursing, I actually did receive a bachelor's in psychology, and a few of my favorite classes were those
Shout out to the nurses.
regarding behavior analysis. And so by no means am I an expert at analyzing behaviors, but I did pick up a few skills along the way. And well, really both in my psychology education and in my nursing experience, analyzing behaviors became a very useful skill. And wow, this interview JP did with NewsNation, there is so much to analyze. So between some of JP's statements, some of his mannerisms, inconsistencies in the things that he says, there is a ton to unpack here. And I'll just give you my opinion right up front before we even get into it. I think that JP is lying a lot throughout this interview. My question is why? Is he trying to cover up something, make himself look better, make Mica look mentally unwell? Is JP a pathological liar? I think these are all very valid questions. So in today's episode, I want to go over a few specific parts of the interview and highlight his various behaviors that I believe represent lying. One thing to note is that we're not looking for only one symptom of lying. Instead, we're looking for multiple different symptoms. So essentially, the more that are present, the more likelihood that JP is lying. So right away, I will say for basically the entirety of the interview, JP appears to be doing pacifying behaviors. So sort of like rubbing his hands or the tissue, I guess, in his hands, always touching his face. If you watch for it, you cannot not see it. He does this all the time. And these are considered self-soothing behaviors. They usually indicate that somebody is experiencing stress. So aside from these nonstop pacifying behaviors, I want to look at how JP answers some of these specific questions that are asked. So in the first clip, JP goes on to talk about how if any of Mica's family members would have noticed how allegedly mentally ill she was and took her to see a professional, they would have been able to help her and essentially save her. And immediately I noticed some inconsistencies here in the things that JP was saying.
If someone thought I need to take her to a professional, that professional would have known that she needed medicine. And the reason I know that's true is because I took her a few weeks before she passed away. I took her to probate court. And in 3 minutes time, they said, your wife is mentally ill and she needs medicine desperately. And I said, okay, let's do it. Let's get her the medicine. Let's get her help. And they said, she's not a danger to anybody in society, so we can't force her to do it. But if one of her family members or friends had taken note of the way she was acting and seen what was happening to her physically and taken her to just one professional, they could have saved her life.
So like I said, there are definitely some inconsistencies in these statements because I want you to think about what he's saying. JP says that he took Mica to probate court and in 3 minutes, they were able to say Mica is mentally ill and that she needs medication, but that they couldn't intervene because she was not a danger to society. And then he immediately goes on to say, but if anyone in her family would have noticed how mentally unwell she was and took her to see a professional, then they could have helped her. But he just admitted that he took her to get evaluated and the professionals didn't help Mica then. So why would they have allegedly intervened if Mica's family took her to be evaluated? It doesn't make any sense what he's saying. And also, like I've mentioned, I worked as an
That's
ER
weird.
nurse for years, and the mental health population, it is huge. Quite often, patients would be petitioned because they were a danger to others and also a danger to themselves. A patient does not only have to be a danger to society, they can absolutely be petitioned for a psychiatric hold if they are deemed a danger to themselves.
That's true.
So what he's saying is inaccurate and it doesn't add up. If the courts had seen and thought that she was actually a danger to herself, they would have stepped in and she would have been petitioned. So in the next clip I want to look at, the interviewer asked JP, "What did the detective tell you?" And this is in reference to what the detective told JP the night of Mica's passing. And his response here has a lot of details that stand out to me.
And so I called a police chief that I know somewhere around here, captain or somebody, and that person told me that it was real as well. I remember screaming really loud and throwing up everywhere.
What did they tell you?
I remember throwing up. Did I have spaghetti that day? It was a lot of throw up. It was something red. I'm sorry.
What did they tell you?
I don't remember that. Oh, no, I don't remember that. Hold on. I don't remember. He said, my family member called the hospital and spoke to, I think, either the head nurse or medical examiner, somebody. And that lady read me stuff that the Robinson County, I guess, had wrote on a piece of paper. And she was reading me the weapon and where it was at and all these different facts. Because the detective would not tell me it was suicide.
Well, I thought you said the family member called, but then the person was telling you? There's some weird stuff going on.
And then I called him back and told him what the hospital told me, and he was pissed off and asked me who that lady's name was, and I didn't know her name. And if I did know, I wasn't going to tell him anyway, because I'm glad she told me.
So initially, JP fails to answer the question, and he just randomly shares details about throwing up spaghetti the evening that he found out about Mica. It was extremely odd and out of place. And yeah, so right away, lots of red flags. He doesn't answer the question, and he shares irrelevant details. I do also have some questions regarding his statements about the nurse telling him details of the incident over the phone and how she shared allegedly reports from the police. Now, it is possible that this is true, but I definitely question this because in this circumstance, I would think that the nurse would not be sharing these details over the phone, especially if there was any kind of question of whether or not there was foul play involved. So to me, he is hiding something here.
Unless she's just a crazy nurse that she's like, it's my last day. I don't care. I'm going to tell people everything they want to know.
Because the way that he responds to this, it's not adding up. And there are, again, like I said, multiple red flags. My intuition regarding this is that JP knew about Mica's passing and that it was going to be ruled a self-unaliving before the detective told him. And so an easy scapegoat for him was to say that a nurse told him, and conveniently, he wouldn't name the nurse. And of course, he kind of spins it like, well, he wouldn't name the nurse because he was trying to protect her. But I don't believe that. I think that JP already knew the situation and the circumstances surrounding Mica's death. What do you guys think? Do you think he's hiding something about how he found out about Mica? Do you think he already knew something happened to her before the detectives called him? I would love to hear your opinion on this. So in the next clip, the interviewer asked JP, so in other words, it all adds up to you. And so this is in regards to whether or not JP believes the details surrounding Mica's passing and if they add up to him. And initially, JP fails to answer this question. This should have been an easy answer. Yes, it all adds up to me. Or no, if that were the case. Instead, he starts out with, well, I'm not a detective, and goes on to say, if she had heart surgery, I'm not going to question the heart surgeon. So these are what's considered non-answer statements.
In other words, it all added up to you. It made sense to you.
I mean, I'm not a detective. If she had heart surgery, I'm not going to question the heart surgeon. I don't know anything about detective work at all.
Right, but it's your wife. I mean, and them telling you her life has ended.
And then look at what happens. JP becomes very defensive.
Are you trying to ask me if I think somebody murdered?
Do you think anybody murdered her?
Oh.
And I found this part interesting because to me, it seems like JP got very defensive towards the interviewer, as if he was accusing JP of murder when he wasn't. He was simply asking JP if he thought the circumstances surrounding Mica's death added up to him. If it added up to him, then he should have simply replied yes.
Yeah.
But when someone becomes...
Sadly, yes. That's what I feel like most people would be like, oh my God, you know, like once I thought about it, you know, it breaks my heart to say it. It crushes me to my soul. But yes, it unfortunately it adds up. I feel like most people in a situation like that would probably say something along those lines. I guess I could be wrong. Well, we got most people in here, huh? A little bit of everybody. Thumbs up if it went something like that. Thumbs down if it would something like there. Let's keep going.
defensive towards something that in it.
Oh, by the way, YouTube, do me a favor. Over 200 people watching. Let's get 200 likes, y'all. Everybody hit the thumbs up button on YouTube. Rumble, same thing. TikTok, tap the screen like crazy. Let's get 50,000 likes. We got 4 more of the whatever those, it's these things, the crown things. Thank you for that, y'all. That's TikTok doing their thing. I appreciate it. Let's keep going.
Itself is not accusatory. This can be a red flag for dishonesty and for guilt. In this next clip, the interviewer asked JP, would you characterize your relationship with Mica as healthy? So JP starts out his answer with laughing. And I mean, context is really important here. If the situation were different, fine. But in this circumstance, it is oddly inappropriate. Because let's think about what we know. Mica and JP were estranged before Mica passed. Mica had served JP with divorce papers. Mica had made multiple police reports regarding JP's alleged abusive behaviors. There were infidelities, and of course, Mica passed away.
Wendy, thank you.
And so I think anyone would assume that no, their relationship was not healthy.
Would you characterize your relationship with Mica as healthy?
Oh man, when she was on her medicine, we had the greatest marriage you could ever imagine. We spent every day together. I don't know any other couple that spends every day. So we wake.
Every married couple typically spends every day together.
Up. Well, she'd kind of wake up before me, but you know, we'd go work out together every day, 5 days a week. We'd eat lunch together every day. We would work together. Then every night we would have our routine. So there's 3 things we would do. We would either sit in the bathtub together for 2 hours until the water went from steaming hot to ice cold. She bought this big air mattress we'd put in the back of the truck, and we'd go park somewhere here in Myrtle Beach where there's no lights. And she'd bring us some hot chocolate, and we'd lay on the air mattress for 2 hours. Or we would go out on the beach with our beach blanket and lay there for 2 hours. Just her and I. She would talk 90% of the time. I would talk 10% of the time, and I would just listen. And so was our marriage healthy? It's probably as healthy as any other American marriage.
So when JP is asked if his marriage was healthy and he laughs, I find it really bizarre. It's almost like the question is funny to him because of the irony in it. He knows that their relationship was unhealthy, even though he would not admit it. JP actually answers this by offering a qualifying response. Well, he says when Mica was on her medicine, as if that was the sole determining factor of whether or not their marriage was healthy. Also, his mannerisms absolutely stand out here to me as well. He's extremely fidgety, the speed of his talking gets faster, and he kind of goes on this tangent. Again, he's giving way too many details and trying to paint this narrative like everything is perfect or was perfect as long as Mica was on lithium. And just watching him and listening to him, I think most people would even intuitively interpret him as lying. Talking about, his idealistic marriage where they spend every night together at least 2 hours of undivided attention in a tub or under the stars. And it's just very inconsistent with the facts that we know to be true. In this next clip, the interviewer asks, would you do anything different? And do you feel any part responsible?
This part drives me crazy. Would you do anything different? Immediately, I would have. For me, I'm saying I would have been there. I would have done anything to be there or in the car or something or close by to stop this from happening. You do anything different? Not let her talk to her family, not tell her family, or whatever he says. What? What? Anything different? You wouldn't just wish that you were there to stop it? Oh. That gives me the chills every time I hear this.
JP's behavior here in response to this question has so many red flags. First, again, he starts off with non-answer statements saying, wow, that's such a good question. Man, that's a good question. You know, of course, this buys JP time while he considers how he wants to answer. And then notice he doesn't even answer the entire question. Instead, he only responds to the would you do anything different part.
Do you feel that you did anything that you would change? Do you feel any part responsible?
That's a great question. But man, that's such a good question. Wow, what a good question. Can I have a second to think about it?
Sure.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. What would I do differently? Oh man. I know what I do. I know what I do. I would not involve her family when she's having mental episodes and is schizophrenic and is off her meds. I would never have texted them.
So yeah, as you can see, JP's behavior here is extremely odd. And again, I think just intuition alone would tell most people that he seems to be acting off and not being truthful. Also notice he does not answer the question if he feels responsible for what happened with Mica. I did even listen to the unedited version just to confirm whether or not he answers this, and he does not answer that part of the question at all.
Oh my God. Eonbro says, JP, weren't they all great questions? Ooh, see?
He only says what he would do different, which classic JP, he somehow twists his answer to place the blame on others again. So the thing that he would do different is to not tell her family because they did everything wrong, not him. It kind of reminds me of how, like in a job interview, when they ask you, what's one of your weaknesses? And you say something like, oh, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, because you don't want to look bad or admit to any like actual real weaknesses because you're trying to get a job. Well, I feel like JP basically answers every question like this. He never does any wrong. And when he does, sort of admit any kind of blame, he only admits to involving Micah's family, which then they did wrong, not him. Do you get what I'm saying? Does that make sense? John Paul never takes any blame for anything. And so, like I said, I did listen to the unedited version and to see if they maybe cut something out here in regards to the question about him taking any responsibility, and he completely avoids the question. Instead, he goes on to talk about like playing with her hair and just like these odd details to avoid the actual question. And so I wish personally that the interviewer would have pushed on this topic a bit more because I really would have liked to hear this better addressed. And finally, this video would be a miss if we didn't go over JP's response to being questioned about the extremely bizarre video that surfaced with him rolling around in the grass saying that he took too many pills. Let's watch this clip.
Oh, sweet baby Jesus. Here we go. Oh, God. Please don't play the whole thing. YouTube, hit the thumbs up button, though. Come on. 200 likes. We're close. TikTok, hit the follow button if you're new here. 2 more of them things. We're going to crush it. My name's Patrick. If you like true crime, y'all, I'm live every night. Subscribe, follow, do all the things. And TikTok, if you want to watch the video with us, we're live on YouTube and Rumble. Just search The Mystery Project, y'all. The Mystery Project on YouTube. You'll find the True Crime channel. We're live there right now. We got almost 300 people watching there, and we got almost 500 people on TikTok. So shout out to all y'all. I appreciate the love and the support. Let's keep going.
Clip and we can see what red flags we notice.
One of the videos that has surfaced recently is from years ago. And I'm sure you know what it is. It's you're sitting face down on the ground and you're freaking out and you're talking about literally squealing about being eaten by ants. Taking the wrong meds. So,
is your medication something they gave you?
I mean, for viewers, for people watching it, the common thought is, what is going on here, and do you have a drug problem?
So
what is going on here, and do you have a drug problem? Damn.
I fell out of a tree, a giant magnolia tree. It was like 300 years old. I broke 12 bones. It was 10 to 12 bones. I don't know if you count fingers. Yeah, it was count fingers. Anyway, I have all this metal in my body, and I'd never taken pain meds in my life, and I just had my body cast taken off, and so I took a little bit too much pain meds that day.
That's it.
That's it. It was 2017, 2016, and it was like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever, and I was missing my family. My wife, Micah, and I, we started through an affair, and so we were both married to people, and then we got divorced, and I was missing my family because I'd lost my family at the time, and I was on pain meds, and just all just put it together. But fell out of a tree, broke a bunch of bones, took too many pain meds. That was that story.
So first he says,
Soul search, right? There's not one picture or video of JP in a body cast, right?
I fell out of a tree, a giant magnolia tree. It was like 300 years old. And so already, again, he's being overly specific and sharing a lot of unnecessary details, which again, this can be a sign of lying. It helps the person to buy time to think of how they want to answer something. Also, a person can do this to try and appear extremely open about a topic, like they're willing to share any and all details, when really they're not sharing the most important details that matter. And then also notice he doesn't say what he was doing in the tree that he fell out of. I wonder. He then goes on to talk about how many bones he broke. And he kind of babbles, was it 10? Was it 12 bones? I don't know. Do you count fingers? Yeah, you should count fingers. I had metal in my body and I just got my body cast off. So he rambles again. And then he suddenly says, I had never taken pain meds in my life, and I took too many pain meds that day. So a very long-winded way to say that he took too many pain meds. There are some inconsistencies here, and I want you to think about it. If he had just gotten his body cast off, then he was already well into his recovery, meaning that this was not the first time that he had taken pain medication. He had likely already been taking them and was actually more likely to be supposed to have been weaned off by them. So I'm now practicing.
Oh, I never even thought about it like that, but that's true. You take that stuff in the beginning, not a month or several weeks after you get the cast off.
Nurse practitioner, and we always aim to have our patients on the lowest dosage of pain meds for the shortest amount of time, and that's to avoid things like addiction and withdrawal. So my point being here is this day was not the first time that he took pain medication, and he knew how they affected him. So I believe he either knowingly took more than he was supposed to, or this was some kind of like psychotic break. It also could be a bit of both. And let's go back to the report made from this day, because we have documentation to compare this to, and we can notice some inconsistencies there. So this is a report from Allison Williams, who was John Paul's first wife. And this is in regards to the circumstance when he was rolling around in the grass. And so it says, on March 6, 2016, the victim reported that the offender constantly stalks and harasses her. The victim said the offender is her, blacked out, but it says ex-husband. And since their breakup, the offender will not leave the victim alone. The victim said the offender comes to her job, her new church, and very often to her home. The victim says the offender uses, I believe it says, their children for an excuse to see her, and the victim feels the offender comes to her home when she is not there. Several months ago, a reporting officer responded to the victim's residence at the request of her father, who stated that the offender was laying in the victim's front yard. The victim was not home at that time. At that time, the offender appeared to be under the influence of something, and rescue was notified to respond. The offender refused treatment and said that maybe he got his medication mixed up and took his sleeping pills instead of his other medications. A few months later, the offender was at the victim's residence wanting to take, I'm assuming it says one of the children, for ice cream, but the victim refused to let that child go because the offender was injured and taking medication. The victim said the offender was in no shape to drive, and it was not safe to let that child go with the offender. The reporting officer responded to that incident as well and did determine that it was not safe for the offender to take whatever child. So here you can see he says in this report that
he didn't get pulled over and get a D. What is it if it's that kind of stuff? It's not DUI, is it? It's DWI, driving while not intoxicated, driving under the influence. It would be DUI, huh?
he actually thinks that he maybe switched his medication and accidentally took a sleeping medication. And then even there was a separate incident where both his wife and the responding officer noticed that he was not safe to take, again, like I said, I'm assuming the children. So this was not an isolated incident. It seems like he was taking too many pain medications or whatever on more than one occasion. And then I'm going to read a little bit of this second page too. The victim said, since those prior incidents, there have been many more, such as the offender coming to the victim's new job, bringing, I'm assuming, a child with him when he has visitation, and telling the victim that the child wanted to see her. So using the kid basically to get to see his ex-wife. The victim has custody of the children and is with them most of the time. The victim said that she has chose a new church separate from the offender. I'm assuming it says the name of whatever church that was. And since she has chose a new church, she says the offender has gone to her church and asked the counselor for counseling. In addition to going to the victim's job and church, the victim said the offender texts and calls her constantly and has been begging the victim to spend 40 days and 40 nights with him without interference.
What the hell? 40 days and 40 nights? Oh my God, ladies, if a dude comes up to you that you're with and he's like, "Oh baby, I love you. I want to make this work. Let's go spend 40 days and 40 nights uninterrupted."
You what?
The hell is that? Man. I'd be like, "Oh, hell no. You go check out that burning bush yourself. I ain't trying to come down a mountain with stones and 10 commandments and shit. Hell no. 40 days and 40 nights. Why don't you part the freeway on your way out of here?" That's crazy as hell. That is crazy as hell. Spend 40 days. I don't even want to spend 1 minute with you. What the hell makes you think I'm going to spend 40 days and 40 nights? Holy macaroni. That's crazy.
The offender told the victim that it is God's will for him to move back into the victim's house.
Using God to say that your ex-wife should let you back in the house? You crazy. That's crazy as hell. You crazy as hell for saying some shit like that. Oh my God. They could just think about how unbelievably ridiculous that is. Mom of two girls, thank you for hitting that. There we go. Imagine that. Like, imagine you just stop paying your mortgage, right? Like, you're just like, you know what? I ain't paying my mortgage anymore. And then they come to foreclose on your house, and you're just like, it's God's will that I stay in my house. So, boom, and you slam the door. What do you think is gonna happen? Are they gonna be like, oh shit, you know what? They're right. It's God's will. We're just gonna let him stay in that house. But what are we gonna do? It's God's will. Come on. Go have a nice ass dinner at like a really nice, steakhouse or something. You get that $700 check. It's God's will that I eat these cows. These cows, all these appetizers we got, all these rounds of drinks, that bottle of Ace of Spades over there that cost me 20 grand. That's God's will. Take that ticket and send it up to the Lord. Can I get an amen? No, you're going to get handcuffs and put in jail. This is crazy as hell. All right, I'm over it. Rant done. Good now, but Jesus, that's just insane to me to say something like that.
The victim has refused to allow the offender into her home to stay and says she has no desire for the offender to ever move in with her. Within the past month, the victim said the offender has moved into a house directly across the pond and in front of the victim's house. Like, this is absolutely bat crazy. And since the offender has moved across the pond from the victim said the offender will call or text and tell the victim that he sees her when she leaves and comes home, and that the offender also lets the victim know when he sees that the victim has company. So actually stalking her just like he stalked and harassed Micah. But this is interesting. Listen to this. The victim said that the offender told her the only thing blocking his view and not allowing the offender to have complete visual access to the front of the victim's residence is a magnolia tree that is planted in the middle of the cul-de-sac.
I fell out of a tree, a giant magnolia tree.
Could that be the same magnolia tree that he fell out of?
Oh my God. I get what she's trying to say. Like, he's saying, I fell out of a magnolia tree. Was he in that magnolia tree? Being like, you got company over there? Oh, shit. Oh, man. I see what you're saying there. Wouldn't that be insane? We don't know. We're not these people. We have no clue. But that would be crazy as hell.
Victim has said that she has noticed several times a white substance spread around the base of the tree and has realized that the substance is Epsom salt. The victim feels sure that the
Oh, shit, I need some Epsom salt. I'm about to take an Epsom salt bath, y'all. I'm about to relax on a Saturday night. Get that tub nice and hot. Be like, whoo! Amen.
offender is placing the large amount of salt around the tree in an effort to kill the tree. The victim said that the reason she believes the offender is the one responsible for the salt is because he used the same technique to kill a few trees that were on the property where his church is. The victim has recently had video surveillance system placed on her residence and said that she would advise reporting officer of any video evidence of the offender stalking around her residence or intentionally causing damage to the large tree. The victim said the offender's reason for wanting to destroy the tree is so that he can fully see the front of the victim's residence. The man is crazy. My
Brittany, stop it.
gut says that he fell out of the magnolia tree trying to stalk and spy on his first wife. Because
Oh,
he is so mentally unwell. John Paul, that is. The mentally sick one. JP. Pastor JP. And he has the audacity to talk about Micah's mental health. The man needs some serious help. And then, just for a little comedic relief, I want to watch how he talks about how if he's ever done illegal drugs.
oh, sweet baby Jesus.
Not hallucinogenics.
Not what is it? What would hallucinate be?
Make you hallucinate.
Well, what makes you hallucinate?
Epsom salt.
Drugs.
Like illegal drugs? Oh, I've never done illegal drug my whole life.
Okay.
Crap, that was a lie. I'm sorry, that was a lie. When I was 16 years old, one time I was in a truck with two of my friends, and they were both smoking pot. I didn't smoke any, but they do a thing called hot box, and so I got some of that. And I tried steroids
Oh God, not the hot box.
one time.
Okay, no, really. Anyone that's watching this, did any of you believe a word that that man just said? Obviously lying. Obviously. He literally plays stupid when he talks about hallucinogenics. And then he audibly pauses when he says that he never did illegal drugs. And he's like, oh, wait, I actually was in a car being hotboxed before.
I experimented with marijuana too, and I didn't like it.
She did not throw in Clint. She put old Bill right there. I did not inhale.
Didn't inhale and never tried it again.
Ah, Monica did though. Oh, snap.
It's so unbelievable. It's actually laughable. And then at the end, how he just like nonchalantly throws in there, oh, and I did steroids once. Like, what? What a super bizarre answer from John Paul. His body language was all over the place. He was constantly rubbing his face and scratching his nose, almost seeming like he was either on some sort of stimulant. It also could be, though, a symptom of lying and self-soothing. It could even be a symptom of mania. But there are so many inconsistencies in the statements that John Paul makes. He gets defensive. He's overly specific with details that don't matter and avoids answering certain questions altogether. Cluster these, and I'd say that the likelihood of John Paul being dishonest throughout this interview is extremely high.
Oh my word. Y'all let me know what you think. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And TikTok, you can come over to YouTube and leave a comment. You can come over to YouTube and rewatch this entire live stream. Search The Mystery Project on YouTube. And YouTube, if you want to see the TikTok stuff, come over and search The Haunted Side on TikTok. Because I wanted to make it extra confusing for you. But anyways, I love you guys. TikTok or YouTube, hit the thumbs up button real quick, though. Because we got over 300 people watching and only 179 likes. So everybody right now, before you go, hit the thumbs up button. Let's get over 200 likes. Let's try to get 300 likes, y'all. We could get it. Everybody's in here. Come on. Just get it going. But I love you guys. Be safe. And I'll see y'all tomorrow.